Imagine a world where zombies have taken over and run rampant across the streets, wreaking havoc and eating people wherever they go. That would sound like a living hell to most people, but not this guy, since with how he's living, he's already practically a zombie. He lives a constant cycle of work, and tomorrow he's still got to go to work again. It all started 3 years ago, when he first landed his dream job. He thought it was going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and it looked like that's what it was going to be. Everyone was nice and cheery, and he even met an absolute stunner, Sari, on his first day. It looked like everything was coming up for Tendo, but reality is often disappointing. That day, after that customary office party, the mood suddenly shifts, and the other workers enter draw mode. They pulled 2 consecutive all-nighters at work, and he wasn't allowed to go home until 2 days later. And that was the day that he realized that his corporation was going to exploit him. The next morning, he wakes up and suddenly doesn't feel all that enthusiastic about his job, but he already went to university for it, so he might as well see it through. The company has got some great policies like vacation days that no one is ever allowed to use. We got unpaid overtime, we got underpaid workers, and a screaming man baby for a boss. Who wouldn't want to work here? And don't forget the best part, crippling health problems that no one cares about. By the second year, Tendo is starting to succumb to the crippling health issues, and to make it better, his boss gives him another pile of work to do. The only thing keeping him sane is Sari and the thought that he'll be able to have a chance with her, but it just keeps getting worse for my dude. Sari is already freaking the CEO of the company, and there goes the last bit of sanity. Tendo now has no idea why he's still even working there, he's gone off the deep end. So much so that he walks into traffic hoping to meet Truck Kuin, but he has no such luck. He can't get a different job since all the other ones will be just as bad, and if he leaves, he'll just be making it worse for the other employees. By the 3rd year, Tendo is really being pushed. It's gotten so bad that he even tried train Kuin just so he won't have to go to work, and this is where he is now in full-on zombie mode. All he can think about is work now, and everything is in black and white. He wakes up the next morning and has a mini panic attack about not wanting to go to work. He then gets stressed and is about to go to work, but as he drags himself out of the house, he notices that there is a letter in his mailbox. He forgot to pay his parking pass, so he charges over to the building manager's room to try and explain why he didn't pay it. As he gets to the door, he keeps knocking but there is no answer. He spots a half-open door and heads in to talk to the building manager, but what he finds is not what he'd normally expect. He sees the building manager neck deep in someone's guts, and that is the first bit of color he's seen in a long while. He bolts out of the room and tries to run out of the building, but he only finds more zombies waiting for him outside. He turns around and runs upstairs, and all the while he's thinking, what am I going to do? If this keeps up, I'm going to be late for work. But as he sees a crashing plane going down overhead, he has an epiphany. All the bosses that made his life a living hell, those bitches are probably dead. He doesn't have to go to work anymore. His life now has meaning again, and he can finally see all the color in the world once more. He sits on a rooftop and thinks about all the things that he will be able to do now that he has free time again. He then thinks about Sari and wonders if she's alright. He decides to try and confess to her even if it gets him killed. Who cares if she was the CEO side chick? With how fat that dude was, he probably won't be able to outrun the zombies, so he's dead by now. And with that, he rides off on his bike to go find where she lives. But when he gets there, he finds the boss's shoes there and the man standing zombified, so he takes the opportunity to hand in his resignation and body slam him out the window. Unfortunately, Sari was also there, and she's also turned into zombie, so with tears in his eyes, he confesses to her to gain closure and runs off to avoid being eaten. That night, he thinks about what he's going to do from now on. With the state of the world, he could die at any moment, so why not make the most of it? With that, he creates his bucket list of things he wants to do before he dies. The next day, Tendo is having a nightmare about his hellish working conditions and wakes up screaming, but relief washes over him as he realizes that his world is a lot better now. It's a zombie apocalypse, and he's all here for it. With the new zeal he now has for life, he's finally able to clean out his entire room for the first time in years, and he's never felt better. He grabs a beer from the fridge and fully savors the taste as his first beer of freedom. Meanwhile, the news is covering the story as it unfolds. The city is in chaos, there are fires raging everywhere, and the newsroom is also in danger of being overrun, and through all this, the news lady is still standing there doing her job. Tendo watches as the news broadcast cuts out, and he knows that objectively, the world has gone to hell. But that's not his problem right now. All he cares about is drinking beer today and lazing around to make up for the years of torture he had put himself through, but when he goes to the fridge to grab another one, he's hit with a grave reality. He's out of beer. This is the worst thing that could possibly have happened to him today. He was going to just lazy around, but now he's got to go to get more beer, and it's not going to be an easy trip. But what kind of lazy day would it be if he didn't have beer to drink, so as much as he wants to stay put, he's going to have to do it. While he's having his moral dilemma, in another room, there's a couple who are freaking the hell out over this apocalypse, as one would normally do. The guy tells her that if they can hold out for one more day, then maybe they'll be saved, but no one's coming to save them. He goes out onto the balcony, and prays for anyone to come and help, and as he says this, he locks eyes with Tendo, who is shimmying his way down a pipe. The guy is freaked out, and tells Tendo to come in while it's still safe, but Tendo says he's alright for now, and he just has to go grab a few things. He then introduces himself as their next-door neighbor. The guy is taken back by Tendo's nonchalant attitude while hanging from a pipe, but he introduces himself as Kosaka. Tendo wants to be nice, and since he's going to the convenience store anyway, he offers to get them some stuff like noodles and toilet paper. As Tendo races his bike down the street, the zombies begin to take notice of him and chase him. He realizes that if he gets surrounded, he might actually die here, but there's no way he's going to go the day without any beer, so this is a necessary action. He gets to the convenience store, and there's a bike outside the store with a camera on it. He doesn't notice that because he is too focused on getting beer, so he pushes the doors open and begins singing his beer song while shopping. Then he notices a girl standing by the fridge, and he immediately dies of cringe at the song. He tries to play it off by acting like nothing happened, but the girl says nothing in return. Things are only going to get more awkward if he stays silent, so he keeps talking. But she just walks past him, so he tries to get her to give her contact info, but she finally says something. He risked his life just to go get some beers, and he didn't even get any water for the hangover. Someone with such poor survival skills would only be a liability to her. And to make it that much worse, he left the door halfway open and now the zombies are coming through. Tendo tries to get in front of her to protect her, but she pulls him back as a truck breaks through the wall, killing the zombies by sheer coincidence, but he did learn some lessons from this. He should analyze the risk before doing something and always close the door. He hopes to meet that girl again, but now isn't the time for that. His bike was destroyed by the truck, so he's got to make a run for it. But there's no way that he's going to outrun the zombies, so he's got to think of something else. Luckily for him, there's a scooter just laying there and he's able to use that to escape. He's upgraded his ride and that gets him thinking, there are a lot of vehicles with keys still in them since the apocalypse started at rush hour, so maybe there's something better, and just as he thinks that, he spots something out of the corner of his eye. He's now got a hot ride. He finally makes it back to the apartment building, and he stops by the apartment of Kosaka, but what he finds is a bloody mess, and I don't think they'll be joining him anytime soon. That night, he was reminded that at any moment, he might die, but if that's the case, he still wants to live to the fullest and do all the things he wasn't able to do while he was working. He thinks long and hard and writes down everything that he would want to do. The next day, we see the girl in a penthouse. She begins her morning routine with a 10 kilometers run on a treadmill, and she's taking the serious approach to surviving the zombie apocalypse. She starts analyzing the zombies' movement patterns, but she needs to go down there and actually see the zombies to get that data, and also to get supplies. So this is why she was at the convenience store earlier. When she ran into Tendo, she was already analyzing him, and that truck that crashed into the store was predicted. She then looks back on the footage of Tendo that she got, and she thinks to herself that maybe his way of doing things isn't so bad after all. With another set of survivors, there's a little girl crying the loss of her father, and the club manager is trying to console her a little. He tells her that she's done great by hanging in there till now, but as he's talking to her, one of his men comes up to him and tells him that the zombies have returned. The manager tells the girl that he has got to go do something, and he will definitely come back to her. They head out to face the ensuing horde in a badass way, and they begin to fight to protect all the people that are left in the club. Meanwhile, Tendo was out here living his best life with his new motorcycle. He's come to the Shinjuku district, looking for his best friend, Kencho. Earlier that day, Tendo was trying to grow in a cool beard, and to speed it along, he tried using a marker to draw it on, but it doesn't end up looking like he wanted it to, so he gives up on it, and just shaves it off. He ponders on what to do today, when he finally notices that his phone is receiving messages again. He's really happy to see this because it means that the internet must be back up and running. Since he started working 3 years ago, he hasn't had any chance to talk to his old friends, so he would really like to get to catch up with them. He sends out a bunch of messages to all of his friends and waits for replies, but then he realizes that the only reason the internet is working again is that network traffic is down, meaning that most of his friends are likely dead by now. This realization makes him really sad. All those years of skipping on hanging out with friends, just to work overtime, what a huge waste of time. He keeps scrolling through his contacts, and comes across one of his friends, Kencho. Now he knows this guy is a fighter, so there is no way he would just lay down and die like that. Meanwhile, Kencho is about to lie down and die like that. He's been stuck in this room for 3 days with nothing but water, and the hallway is too crowded with zombies for him to have even the slightest hope of escaping. And even more, he's stuck in here with this zombie woman, and the only thing that saved him was his love for bondage. He sits there and thinks this is it. His life even starts flashing before his eyes, and he sees memories of Tendo while they were still in college. At that moment, Tendo actually called Kencho, and he was really shocked to see that he got a call. Tendo asks for Kencho's location, and he says he's in Shinjuku, but there's no way that Tendo would be able to make it all the way there without being eaten by any zombies. But that isn't going to stop him, and that is why Tendo went to Shinjuku. On the way, he recalls how he used to meet up with Kencho for drinks, but Kencho was actually a successful real estate contractor, with good pay, high praise from his bosses, and an actual love life. Kencho tells Tendo that he should probably quit his job. But at that point, Tendo was still too deep in the rabbit hole to notice that he was actually right, so instead, he gets angry at him, and cuts their little hangout short. He never got the chance to apologize for that, so he's going to make sure he does that now. Meanwhile, the manager from before is about to reach his final moments, and as the zombies slowly approach him, he waits for death. However, a car horn in the distance is enough to distract the zombies and make them leave him alone. It also attracts the zombies that are holding Kencho in that room, so Kencho is finally able to go meet him. Kencho finally sees that the zombies are gone, and just then, Tendo shows up and starts yelling at the top of his lungs, apologizing for not taking his advice back then and getting jealous of him. But all that shouting draws in more zombies, and they are forced to retreat to the top of the roof. They get there, but the zombies are right on their tail, so they are now stuck. Kencho thinks this is it for him again, but Tendo isn't about to let it end like this, so Tendo tells Kencho that they should jump across the rooftops, but he isn't too sure he can make the jump. Tendo goes for it, and he makes it, but now it's Kino's turn, but he doesn't want to do it. He apologizes to Tendo for making him feel jealous back then. The truth is that he hated his job and that he was no better than a scum with how he forced people into bad contracts, so he bragged about all the good things he got to cope with it. What he always wanted to be was a stand-up comedian. Tendo tells him that it's not too late for that, and Kencho realizes that he doesn't have to give up here, so he starts running and takes the jump, and for some reason, he takes off all his clothes midway through. He isn't able to make the entire jump, so he ends up hanging off a huge ledge, but Tendo pulls him up in time. But the worst thing imaginable happens. While he's being pulled up, he scrapes his nuts. After that, the two spend the night drinking naked, as all the homies do. But that's where the video ends. Let me know in the comments if you want me to cover part 2, and if you enjoyed watching this video, consider liking and subscribing for more like it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.